All right. So for those of you that have the sound on your phones, let's go ahead and lower your volume. We are live, so we have transitioned into Facebook land and YouTube land. And if you want to share from my page, I'm streaming from the Concrete Team page, and I'm also streaming from my personal page, which is Tony McNeil, which is on Facebook. So y'all can share with your folks. All right. Our lives, so we have transition. Here we go. So, okay, you guys told me not to be like too giddy and excited and not to be like smiling too much. And so let me go ahead and tell y'all now that that ain't gonna happen. I am ecstatic, super stoked, and super duper excited because for the first time in my organizing time here in Stockton, California, I have seen what we can do when we put ourselves together. When we come together in unity, oh my God, we can do some things. So let's go around really quick. Everybody introduce yourself. Tony from Faith in the Valley. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm just a community, or not just, I'm a community organizer and college student.
Nancy.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Guantes Insun, and I'm the co-director for Nopal, which is a community Chicano youth-focused organization. And I also teach ethnic studies at Sac State.
Nice. Toya.
Hey everybody, I'm Latoya McNeil. I would be what you call an internal organizer. I'm more on the administration side, but I currently am the administrator for Advanced Peace and Concrete Team and Peacemaker Fellowship with Pico, California.
Jasmine. I think she might be a little frozen.
Hi everyone,
Let me pull her out.
Jasmine Leak, managing director. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Jasmine Leak, director of policy at the Stockton Younger Women's Task Force, and yeah, general Stockton organizer. Thanks for having me.
Sweet. Tama.
Hi, everybody. Tama Brisbane, Executive Director of With Our Words, Stockton Poet Laureate.
Okay, so what did it, so first of all, I want to do a breakdown. So like, let's do a quick, what happened, and then what did we do, and where are we at? So who wants to take the first part? What happened? Who wants to take a stab at it? How did we get here? Tama, what happened?
I was just taking notes. Today we heard the community on the mic. So, you know, as a poet and as someone who values language and the power of words and the power of communal words, this was a sublime morning for me, because we not only broke our silence as women and people who align and value women, we broke our silence as a community. We closed that gap between injury and not reaction, but action. And it was a pretty thing to see.
Nancy, what happened? How did we get here?
Oh, there's so much to say, right? I think that I want to build on what Thomas said. It's been a long time coming, really talking about our experience also in governance, right? Being heard, that idea. I think what got us here was, definitely Camille reaching out, right, to each one of us, for sure, to support her in terms of organizing a strategic effort. But I think the other thing that happened was there was an urgent call to action to do this, I am Camille, the hashtag I am Camille.
So then let's back up with that. And it's, yeah, there she goes. Okay. So how do you guys, and so I think, who do I want to go to? Toya, you were on the first call. So I'm still trying to get to, so what happened? In your words, what happened?
What happened was they tried us one too many times. We
Okay.
saw ourselves, and we saw ourselves in one courageous young woman, Miss Camille, who decided to not take a step back, but courageously take a step forward publicly and say, I am worthy of the pay that I deserve. Do not try to play me because I am young. Do not try to play me because I'm a woman of color. I have put in the work. I have did what I needed to do. I'm qualified. And she courageously wrote it all out. And I think many of us saw, like I said, we saw ourselves in this letter. She happens to be in a position of power. So I think it was a little bit scary on my end, just listening, because of the position she's in. I said it on the last call, it comes with possible repercussions that possibly not being able to serve in that position, possibly, being targeted, possibly a lot of things. But what happened is she was told that she should come in at a certain pay when she's put in the work and deserves to be compensated for what she does. And we all took a stand with her.
What made this bold and courageous from you all as women of color, as women and as women of color? What made this bold and courageous? What made this such a big deal? Yeah, what made this such a big deal? Anybody? This wasn't a big deal for any of you guys?
I think we're all trying to be polite to each other and
okay, so I need y'all to not be polite. Look, I'm trying to give y'all space and not take up all the space. Michelle, what made this such a big deal? What made this such a big deal?
I think what made this a really big deal to me is Camille personally is the woman that really brought me into these spaces, and she has poured so much love and so much effort into me personally, especially last year. She was the reason I was able to be an organizer on a state Senate campaign at 18, 19 years old. I didn't really have too much experience before that, but she, saw my hard work and saw my dedication, to this work, and she gave me that opportunity. And so I've seen her work ethic, and I've seen, I think as we all have, what an amazing person and hard worker that Camille is. And so I took this very personally when I heard, that they were questioning what she should be getting paid. And I think the calls that we had about it and just everything, it really infuriated me, because I know that Camille is not the only one, and I'm just so fortunate to have to be able to stand on her shoulders and to be able to stand on all of your shoulders, so that when it is my turn to step into these roles, that the work is already being done, that we're receiving equal pay. So every day I'm just so grateful to have all of you in the community, that have been doing the work. Because now that me, as a young person stepping into these roles, there are still a lot of struggles, but I have hope because of the women that have, already been in these spaces and that have came before me. So. it was a really big deal because we are making a collective step, towards equal pay for equal work, and that's a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I can just chime in. Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
No. Go ahead, because I already spoke, Jasmine. I'll come in behind you.
Okay. I mean, I just say, I'm still dealing with processing the meeting. There was a lot of triggering things in that meeting. And I'll just say this, that I was brought back personally to when the Kavanaugh hearings were happening and the way that they treated, I am totally blanking on her name right now, but the woman who testified against now Judge Kavanaugh, I am totally blanking on her name, but forgive me wherever you are, you're important. But so I'm just like dealing with that. But it brought up those feelings, like the way that the HR director was being questioned about, not having the like materials like in time, and the way that Supervisor Miller was being questioned about, her authority in selecting Camille in the first place. Like, it just brought up a lot of feelings for me around just why women are constantly questioned when they're qualified. They've put in the work. They know best who's going to serve their communities. Like, I'm just so frustrated that we're still doing this, that women are still having to deal with this, and that we're all having to now, and especially for Camille, who is, who said it several times, like, she's at the center of this issue, but she's not the only one.
Right.
She's at this particular moment, she is at the center of this. But like, it's not the first time that this has happened. And I'm, it's disgusting behavior that we're seeing. Like, and it's so routine, it's so normalized, and it's not normal. We shouldn't be having to deal with this. And on the part of like equal pay for equal work, I think for me, it's a big deal because economic mobility and your ability to provide for yourself and be independent is what leads to so much of like our self-worth, our ability to really build a foundation for ourselves that is not dependent upon, or puts us in this situation where we're dependent upon people or systems that are abusive and harmful towards us. So to me, that's why it's a big deal. Yeah, and I think, that's why I stand with Camille and all of you always, because yeah, it's unbelievable that we're still having to have this conversation.
Tama, what were you going to say? Thank you so much, Jasmine, because that's true. I wanted to say, yes, that is true. And as I was watching all of that at the end, triggering as hell. Let me just say that. I was like, for real? Oh my God. And to feel like, okay, wait, are you saying that women and women of color are at the same, that we have the same area of fight that white men have? I was really struggling with that. As Supervisor Patty was speaking, in regards to even having to go back and pay reparations to the white men that came in at entry level. Oh yes, he said some things. There was some things. I'm not going to go there yet because he felt like we were bullying him as well in our public comments and different things. And so that was another thing that the community can't make public comments and exercise their civic right to engage with board of supervisors without the board of supervisor, who is a former boxer, which he said several times. You can't contend. Okay, let me back up. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry. Speaking of being triggered, I think Michelle and Toya voiced the combination for me. One, it was personal. And I think for every woman, every person involved, but especially every woman involved, there was some aspect that struck that bone deep personal nerve. Tony, for you and I, we've seen this fight before. We're seeing our daughters have these fights. We're seeing two generations have this fight. And then Toya comes in with, you tried it and we've had enough. We've had enough. I sit here every day at my desk with this sign that says, I want every girl to know that her voice can change the world.
Mm.
This
Wow.
is what I work with every day. And I think what was so triggering for me is the voice part, the shh part, the pat on the head part, the condescension, the intent behind it, the know your place, and your place is less than, that it is always diminished, that it is always contingent upon me, a man, allowing you to be somewhere, when we are allowed to be everywhere we set our foot. And every room we walk into, we belong in. And so to watch this injury happen to Camille one more again, it was like, you know what? No. In my family, we have a saying, don't start none, won't be none. And that's why I'm not wearing earrings on air now, because I literally just had to take them off. Because this is a fight that it is time to have. And to watch the network spring into action. And we cannot forget the contributions of Kathy Miller in this.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't forget Susan Eggman in this.
Yeah.
We cannot forget the organizations and individuals. And Jasmine, it's Christine Blasey Ford who you were thinking about.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so it's not just a equal pay for equal worth. It's not just the self-esteem in the workplace, wherever your workplace may be. And it's not just having agency over your own voice. It is all of those things. And that in this moment where we are witnessing transformational breakage,
Oh my God.
opportunity for transformational change, it's like, yeah, these are the wrong women. Let me change that. No, these are the right women. These are the right women to see this kind of injury and action and remedy all in the space of the same moment. So
I just want to throw one thing in there. I was just reminded it's Dr. Christine Blasey Ford too. There we go. Doctor. Let's not forget.
Wow. So let me make sure. Did any of you guys just have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Tony, I know I was the one that said we needed to behave, but
You did. I'm trying.
I did. But did he really say reparations?
He did. He did. I am just so like, huh? He said, hold on, wait, I got stuff. I wrote stuff down, you guys. I was like, he was it. I just had never seen anything like it before. Yes. He said that he will not be bullied and harassed. He made a very clear public statement at the end that he was feeling bullied and harassed. And I don't want to take it out of context. I'm just trying to, for me as a Black woman, y'all, it's just difficult for me to wrap my mind around this man in this seat, who clearly was postured as power. Because power, right? Power is taken, not given. Power is taken, not given. Power is taken, not given. Did I say that 3 times? Yes, I did. Power is the ability to influence behavior.
Said reparation.
And so it felt to me as though there was a struggle in this space and there was a tension with this individual that was watching the community come together and take power. Power is taken, it's not given. Because power is the ability to influence change in behavior. And the community did that. And so for me, the biggest thing that stood out was watching everyone come together as a community organizer, y'all. Nancy, look, I'm telling you, as an organizer, this is an organizer's dream come true. This was a thing of beauty to watch all of y'all come together. We drove 127. So everybody played their intricate parts, right? We all had our different things. My job was to drive public comment, right? That's what I signed up for. So that was Faith in the Valley. That was my job, was to drive public comment. And so I connected with the concrete team, and Stockton stands for Minneapolis. And we used our stuff, and we put together what we needed with the help of all of you all. And we drove public comment, and within less than 48 hours. So within 24 hours, the community engaged in 127 emails and public comments to the County Board of Supervisors. All we did was provided the tool. Y'all did that. 127. Now that's just with the tool. That is not in addition to some of the other community members, right? That sent emails to their constituents, to their friends, to their bases of influence, from just different women all over, and men, faith leaders in the community, all of y'all. So how long were public comments, y'all?
Over an hour, for sure.
I stopped counting at over 60 comments that were read into the record.
Just around this issue?
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm thinking that if you questioned whether or not, now I'm going to say it like this. I ain't even saying it to y'all. So if you questioned whether or not Camille is qualified to be the chief of staff, if you questioned whether or not Camille has the connection to the community, if you questioned whether or not she has influence in the San Joaquin County, Tracy, Manteca, Lodi, Stockton, and all the other cities that are there, I think that it was made evident, right, by the power that was shown that influence changed behavior.
Yeah. Or like we like to say, she got people.
She got people. That's what we say on the concrete. And I look, no, that makes some folks mad. But so how do you guys even feel about seeing us come together and not quibble, not bicker, not fight, not even try to compete with each other? How did that feel, y'all? Like, how did that feel? Toya, Michelle, how did that feel?
It felt absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved seeing the different comments, the different conversations about it. I was getting knowledge from, of course, I had heard it from you, Mom, but then I got different information from Jasmine because I was reading through comments on her stuff. And I was like, okay, this is how I watch this and this is where I do this. But everybody really worked their lanes, their expertise, their everything. It was such a powerful thing. And on top of that, Camille still found the strength to still talk to people and reach out. And I've never met her a day in my life. Never. And she reached out to me personally just to say, I see you, I hear you, you know? And I was like, if I don't get anything, I mean, talk about inspiration. I can't wait to be like you. You know? But it felt so good. It even feels good looking at the screen. Like, these are, I think we did talk about it the last call. That Mama T said it like that. The 6, you know, it's 6 here, but then this 6 gets more like another 6, and then another 6, and another 6. It feels like that. My hope would be that we don't lose momentum, because that quickly happens. This is not done. Next week, this is still an issue. The week after, the next meeting, all of that stuff. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
Michelle, were you going to say something?
There's a car alarm going off. I don't know if you all can hear it. Oh, okay, it just stopped. So I was like, let me just wait a minute. Yeah, I didn't really have like too much specifically in mind, but just I think just seeing the amount, well, men and women, but specifically the women in the community, I just feel like so much love, because to see like in the span of 2 days, like how many of us can really come together as a collective, and just like how much strength we all hold, it just like makes me so happy and joyful. And I mean, I know that women came not just from Stockton, but just it gives me, it's like, yeah, don't talk about Stockton, because look at us, like look at us, we're beautiful and we're powerful and we're so strong, and we can do anything when we come together as a collective. So that's how I feel.
And so can I ask go ahead, Jasmine, and then I'll ask the
I
other
was
question.
just gonna say, Toya, to your point about building and not losing momentum. There are two other amazing women of color who need our support, actually immediately have been needing our support, need our support, especially tonight, because they're experiencing the same, well, I think it's ultimately the same theme, but it's a little different on the Stockton Unified School District Board. I know you all know them, but for the folks that are tuning in that don't know them, trustees Candelaria Vargas and trustee Angel Ann Flores. What's going on at Stockton Unified School District is horrific. It's embarrassing, as equally embarrassing as what happened today. And so I would just encourage you all, if you're paying attention, to, just follow along, get up to speed on what's going on with Stockton Unified School District. Tap into the Families for a Better School Board. They keep tabs on what's going on there, and show up tonight. There's 5 p.m. There's a meeting, and you can submit a public comment, because they're being censured. Essentially, the board of directors or board of trustees is trying to censure these two women who have shown over and over again that they are trying to bring through the voice of the community in the process, that despite COVID and all of that, trying to make sure that community is centered at the decision-making table. And it's upsetting. I don't know where Tony went. Did she fall off of all your screens too? Oh,
No,
there she is.
I'm here. I'm multitasking because what I wanted to do. So I was going to transition us to what's going on with the school board. And so what I was doing, and Jasmine, maybe you can, or someone, I wanted to drop information. So if you guys can copy and paste some specifics around that. Jasmine, I was looking for a post that you put up in particular in regard to school board information. If you can drop it in the private chat, I will put that in the public comments.
Okay, I'll try. And then if anyone else has other notes that they can refer to, I think that'd be great.
So I wanted to transition us to that. And so I really thank you for just bringing us into that segue, because what happens is we lose momentum. So typically in our community, we do reactionary organizing, is what I've termed it. Reactionary organizing is George Floyd. He was brutally murdered, right, by law enforcement, knee, all of that. And so then we reacted immediately, and we began to organize and unify and band together in order to demonstrate and protest. And so you see it time and time again where we do reactionary organizing. However, that isn't sustained in movement. We don't build a movement. We don't build momentum and capacity when it comes to sustaining a thing. And I say that because now this thing that just took place with the hashtag I am Camille, right? And how dare you? I am Camille is not just significantly about Camille.
Right.
So we moved, we did some stuff. We showed what we can do when we come together. We showed out, we showed power for sure. However, there is more work to be done. There is more work. So, and it is not an accident. Who knows? Do you guys know who actually drives the vote nationally, statewide, and locally? Do y'all know?
Say the question again. Sorry.
Do you know
Multitasking.
the demographics? Do you know who drives the vote on a national, state, and local level?
Women of color.
Michelle, you saying it?
I was gonna say Black women.
Yeah, women.
Well, I
Women.
just know, especially too, for very important elections, they show out the most. Like they show out.
hmm
Yeah.
So we have power. We know how to engage. And I think that, we're busy. We've got a lot on our plates. So what do we need to do? Nancy, what do we need to do? What's going on with the school board? And what do we need to do? Because these are our children, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have the opportunity to do a lot, fortunately, right? There's no question about. I think the goal is to figure out a way that we can connect so that we can be on the same wavelength. So for this particular topic on SUSD, Stockton Unified, there are 3 things on the agenda, 3 items, they say, on the agenda. 1.7, which deals with the approval of the interim superintendent, which in a little bit I'll talk about the opposition, why we're, as a community of critical educators, we're opposing this approval of interim superintendent. And then there's items 8.2, 8.3, which basically are proposed resolutions, right, or that take action against Trustee Vargas and Flores. Basically, what is it called? Censoring. It's a censorship resolution. Censored in practice, even without this resolution. Super problematic, unprofessional, and just like, it's like petty politics, to be honest. But
Nancy, can I pause you?
Uh-huh.
Nancy, can I pause you for 1 second? You said censorship. So I kind of like to break down the blah, blah, blah of the thing for the community that may not know. What does that mean?
Well, it basically means, right, that they, based on the process of meeting, right, what they call the board bylaws, they're allowed to basically, what was that? There's an echo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Censorship would just give the right or the power to other board members to ask them, to me generally is just to tell them to be quiet, right? And so then they're using policy to cover up discussion, first of all. The other thing is not allow them to speak truth, and in general just problematize the things that are happening. So for me, it's a complete shutdown, right? And creating an opportunity to remove the opportunity for them to say what is going on within their district. It's basically censorship, right? We're gonna block you from talking, from wanting to move on some of these key issues. And that is definitely a violation of all things considered in terms of why you're serving on the board in the first place, right? Is to give input and represent your community, especially the district that they're representing. So that's for me what it means to censor someone from the board. It's basically them of their voice to advocate. But I want to talk about the superintendent, though. That is also an issue. So in the last 5 years since I've organized with Stockton Schools Initiative, we've seen 5 different interim and like a combination of interim and permanent superintendents, 5 in 5 years. And so I don't know, that is the first piece that is problematic to me, is that there has been a rotating of superintendents. And a lot of it has to do with poor leadership, right? The majority having poor leadership on that matter. The second one, it has a really bad outcome. Structurally, we're looking at a huge budget deficit already because of COVID-19. So like on top of that, making a decision where we are we are basically going through superintendents adds really more budgetary issues. It's already like at 300K, right? The money that we're spending on interims and search committees, and none of it with people at the center, like the community. All of it is just like them making decisions behind closed doors, the majority making decisions. So it's very problematic with what's happening. And there obviously, like Jasmine, you mentioned that there's, again, women are being targeted. In this case, women, women of color, right? And there are other women of color within the board, which I think is also another thing that we need to talk within our community, right? Is this idea of people of color aligning with whiteness and white supremacy, and then hurting other people of color. And even that happens even within progressive movement spaces too, right? But that's like a whole different panel within its own. This idea of whiteness and white supremacy and how it manifests within our community, it's very detrimental. But yes, a lot going down at the local level. SUSD, Candelaria, Angel Ann, they need our help as well tonight.
So so a couple of things that I want to do. Tama, if you can you elaborate a little bit more on the difference between censorship and censure? What it is and what it means. And the reason why I'm doing this way, you all, is because I really want to make sure. A lot of times we don't have community get involved because we're speaking. And I'm not saying we're speaking above them. Top down organizing is that these are the seats that we're at. And so this is the language that we use, in this all the time. But we're not accustomed to speaking directly to the community, and then bringing them in a place of knowing, in full understanding, in full transparency of what it is. And so break down the blah, 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 Tama. Are you on mute? Yes.
Sorry. All right, we're talking about two different terms of art that have the same intent, but they are put forward differently. So censorship, CENSOR, censorship, that is literally the suppression or prohibition of any parts of, say, a book or a film or news that's considered obscene or politically unacceptable or a threat to security. And so you'll see people censoring speech. But censure, CENSURE, is literally a parliamentary procedure whereby a body says, we don't like what you're saying. It's a rebuke. It is the official movement of a body against, like tonight, SUSD is officially moving against Candelaria and Angel Ann, saying we don't like what we're saying and we're going to officially rebuke you. That's censure. They can't stop either one of them from speaking. And you're seeing censure happening on the larger scale when you see certain Republicans are facing consequences from their own state legislators for having voted to certify the election or having voted to impeach Trump. Ben Sasse in Nebraska is being censured by his legislature. And I'm drawing a blank on her name. Liz Cheney is being censured by her state legislator, and she's saying she's not going to resign. It's not going to stop her. But the legislatures are putting that on the official record that we strongly disapprove of how you run your mouth.
Okay.
And the things that you're saying. We don't like them.
Okay.
And so that's what's happening tonight. But it's not censorship. They can't stop them. They can't stop either woman from speaking. They can come back and censure them. I'm not sure about how SUSD operates under their censorship procedures, because this is the first time I'm watching it, but I know that there is a difference. And so, but it comes down to the same thing. Censure is a legislative action. Censorship is the suppression of public speech. Both of them, their underpinning is, we don't like what you're saying.
Okay.
I think something interesting to think about too on this idea of censorship is just like, I think I hear this used more with women. No matter what their policy take is or whatever, is just I see, and this is just anecdotally, but I would be curious to know if maybe Dr. Juante has you know, some evidence behind this. I don't know if you do, Nancy, but just, you know, how often are women legislators censured as opposed to their male counterparts? I think it'd be interesting to explore that, because every time I'm thinking about that, I can recall in my recent memory of someone being censured, it's almost every time it's a woman. And just something to think about.
Or a person of color.
Or a person of color. Thank you.
So I know that I've been having one-on-ones with some of the leaders and stuff, just trying to get my mind wrapped around, I'm going to call it drama. The drama of what's going on with the Stockton Unified School District Board. So the first thing, now I'm going on, I'm now I just, this is a real serious thing here. How much power does the school board have? What is the significance of the school board when it comes to our children and our parents, and what is going on with our schools? What do they govern? What do they have rule over? And do they uphold the voice? Are they engaged with the parents and the students? Are they fulfilling those roles and those obligations? You know, I mean, there's so many questions as an organizer that I have in regard to this. Who's organizing with the parents? Who, it seems like there's so much quibbling and fighting amongst the board, and you know, and organizers in regard to the board and the behaviors and all of that. Where is the voice of the parents? Where is the voice of the people?
Well, I don't want to I just want to just say that, you know, as a person who's in the district, I live in the district, I'm a resident, I don't have children that attend Stockton Unified School, or children at all for that matter. But I can tell you it's really frustrating to even be a participant in their meetings. Like they don't do video meetings. We have organized ourselves in like so little time, and this is their like responsibility, and you know, they don't have meetings where you can see their face. It's phone by phone only, which is, you know, as we know, not a very engaging way to engage in dialogue, and public comment doesn't lend to public comment at all. And you know, there's absolutely zero interest on their part to even begin to have that conversation. Their comments, at least at the previous meeting before COVID, when this was a topic on the agenda, was that they wanted to protect student safety, and it was for student security. But yet we have students engaging virtually online daily. So it's confusing to me. I feel like we get a lot of mixed messages on that. And certainly I think, you know, it's been said before on this call that there isn't an interest in hearing the community. There isn't an interest in centering the community in any of the conversations or decisions that are being made. And the moment that Trustee Vargas and Trustee Flores tried to do that by having these conversations with community and directly outreaching to community, they're being censured by the board. So it's very clear, they've made it very clear where they stand on community participation. And frankly, like, I don't know what the next step is, but I'd open it up to anyone who has ideas on how the community can take direct action.
I know that they're asking people to make public comments or what have you. So, Tama, Do you want to say that? Maybe that is a call to action?
Yes, perhaps that could be the next call for action campaign on the part of the community, returning the SUSD board to visibility in their meetings. If they are supposedly the advocates for our students and our students are day-to-day visible with each other, they can certainly be twice a month visible with us.
So that could be. Return. So I'm going to put it in here as possible call to action for school board. Return to visibility. Return to visibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I know that, and we're encouraging folks to attend, but then if you're saying so attend, that would only be to listen in to a conversation over a phone. That's what you're saying, right? So this isn't, and any other governing body that we have has gone to video. Okay, and so at this point now, that just seems like a reasonable ask, right?
Yeah.
I think, oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I just am, just now that we're on the topic, I'm thinking about one of the meetings when we were like mobilized to write public comments to end, to end Stockton School Police, and they only read, I think, a small handful of them, and I just remember feeling so defeated because that was actually the first time that I've ever written a public comment, and I was just waiting for my comment to be read, and it never got read. And I'm just like, well, what is the point then if you're only going to read the first 3 that you see and then that's it? I don't understand how they are elected by the people, but how do you know what the people want if you're not listening to them or not letting us speak? I don't get the lack of accessibility. And that's kind of like the same for today's Board of Supervisors meeting. I thought that I was going to be able to like call in and say my statement myself, and then I wasn't able to. So, yeah.
So the next school board election is when? I have the answer here. I'm just trying to make.
Would it be 2022?
Yes.
Yep.
So the next school board election is 2022, and the seats number 2, 4 for districts 2, 4, 6, and 7 are up. Typically, I know that Nancy, you do some organizing around the schools. Typically, do you have? Is there a high engagement, community engagement when it comes to voter engagement, or do we have any stats on that? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Just
No, yeah, that's a good question. During the time that I worked with the parents, because I was the parent organizer for Stockton Schools Initiative, and what I took away from that experience is that a lot of families, they're connected, they know what's happening, like they know what's going down, but they don't, there's a distrust. There was a lot of distrust with, at least in that particular setting with the school board. And it wasn't until later, right, when other folks got elected in 2016, that it opened up the space, right? Trustee at that time, Lang Lung Tao. There were other board members, right? Angela Phillips, who was on the board. What is they? I'm skipping other.
you're breaking up, sis.
Representatives. Oh, I'm forgetting. Tama, do you remember the name of the representative? Andrea Baris, trustee Andrea Baris.
Yes.
All of them were awesome. They always inquired, right? Despite being there, this big distrust between the community and the board, there were efforts from board members at that time that really seek to talk to people, right? The students, the parents. But what I'm understanding with this new board, right, is that there is, we're going back in time.
Okay. I mean, you know, that seems to be across the board, but okay.
And so I worry, right? I was texting some of the parents today about the superintendent conversation, and a lot of them knew, but they're like frustrated. They're like, we're dealing with COVID, and on top of that, we're dealing with this bad leadership. So like,
Right.
how do I balance, right? And can you tell me how can I contribute, right? And so I passed on that letter template that's going around to kind of, you know, show our support and our voice on our opposition, right, on those matters. So no, I think the district needs to do better. Systemically, our schools need to do better, not just our board. The schools themselves need to do a better job at centering student and parent experience, family experiences, because that's not happening, and it happens.
And so, I mean, how would we just now? This is I'm thinking out the box, okay? And so, and I'm saying this publicly and openly. We're 51 minutes, so we just got 5 more minutes. And so, I'm saying this publicly and openly. You know, Tama, Michelle, you know, just what would it look like just to do a whole overhaul? You know, like if it's just a whole bad batch and ain't nobody getting their job done, who do we go to then? Who who oversees a governing body that is dysfunctional and not seeming to be able to meet the needs of the people or even conceive or hear from the people? At that point, then what do you do with that? How do you just get rid of everybody and start from scratch? Nancy, you laughing at me, girl. Look, this is who I am. So
I love your question, because that's what we've been called to do, right? We got to reimagine how we can disrupt and dismantle. I think, I mean, I'm going to give my own answer, and then I'm curious to hear Michelle, Tama as well, what you all are thinking. But I think for me is create spaces, right? And be loud. I think that, I mean, it does require us to challenge ourselves a little bit more, because these meetings are intimidating on their own already, right?
Okay.
And so I'm thinking of like really just creating your own space to share out. Social media is a tool we could use, right, as a platform to share our stories and our voices. But I think at the level of organizing is really connecting with grassroots nonprofits or like projects, right? Like Tama, you direct an amazing organization with our words, right? That gives this other level platform. Michelle, you're doing some organizing around politics and public policy. And you've created that space for yourself, because at the public policy level, no one's inviting Michelle to be part of this, right? And then we are doing it here with Ricky, you know, with Nopal, and really starting with our own stories and inviting others to share so that we can do some collective organizing. But that's where I'll pass the mic on. There's other ways, of course, that we could do this.
Yeah. I know if you're talking about wholesale change, sweep everything from the board, there's usually 2 remedies that are available to the public as a whole. One is to wait until the next election rolls around and organize, identify the candidates that you want to throw your support behind, and do the whole get out the vote thing. If it is dire enough and important enough and infuriating enough, then you can mount a recall effort. And I know that some efforts like that are underway. So that's 2 legislative ways that you can address the problem. I think one of the things that we all have to do is be mindful, even in spaces like this, and especially when we're talking about SUSD, always have young people present, learning at our feet next to us so that they know how to advocate for themselves. And then we're standing behind them. We got your back. And using social media and creating platforms for conjoined voices so that we're working top down and bottom up at all times. You know, there Stockton Stands with Minneapolis, Changes, every group that either works with youth or purports to work with youth should be part of the response to public and academic injuries that we're seeing now. Because we're all saying that, you know, we're doing this for our students, we're doing this for our children, then we better be ready to hand them the mic.
Okay. Michelle?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about, I guess, really just creating spaces so we can point out, okay, like, who do we really want to stand behind in this next election? But I mean, recall, I'm down for a recall. I'm down for a law. I'm down for everything. But
Michelle, my new best friend, by the way, y'all.
Michelle, just take your earrings off, girl. Just take your earrings off. So we know.
Stay greased up. Shoot.
But I really think if we do go waiting until, because I mean, just the campaigning part, it will probably have to start like finding like who we want to stand behind in a whole campaign. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And so I know that it'll come like this before we know it. But I think I think just because of like the issues that are happening, you know, it might have to come down to recalls. So, you know, whichever it ends up happening, but I'm really invested in this. And so I'm willing to definitely put in the work to, you know, help like find, you know, who would be these right candidates for, you know, these positions and really stand behind them and work and organize for them. So.
Nancy, I'm going to drop what you just said in the chat. You want to go ahead and elaborate on that? I'm going to pop it in there.
Yes, we need to run our own candidates. Geez. You know, these people, they have lists going of who they want to run between now and the next 20 years. So
Absolutely.
we need to do the same thing. And they need to, you know, they need to come from people who we know, we trust, and have their back once they're ready to step into that space.
And Michelle kind of like threw her eyebrows up really hard. So you think that look, and this is just now. So as a community organizer, I am nonpartisan. Is that the right word? Yes, not C3, nonpartisan. I am going to say this only as an example, but not as someone who supported either or. Do you think that Trump was just all of a sudden elected president? No, there was a strategy and a plan that was put in place in order to run him as the president. And when you look at it, if you go back and you look at it, the Koch brothers had a full-blown campaign that they were running years prior to him coming into office. And it really wasn't about him. It was really about the judges that were put in for life terms. And I'm just so there was some strategy that was put in here in order for laws to be passed, the life terms, like judges, their judges, life forever until they pass away. And these people now pass laws, make laws, support laws, and all of that. This was something that was in the making far beyond who it was that they ran. They just ran their figurehead in order to get their people into the positions and the seats in the pot, right? Power. This is about power. People they were power. The police officers union, they knew who they wanted to support during these elections that we had. I won't even name candidates in this space. I'm being nice. But they knew who they wanted as assembly. They knew who they wanted as the mayor. They knew who they want on the board of supervisors. They knew who they want for governor. And they put money together, big ag, big oil. They put money together in order to know and support and back who they want to run. The community, we don't do the research that we need to, and we don't support people from the ground in order to represent us. That's like the good old days. Now we don't do that. We don't have time. We're too oppressed by power to do that. So
that's my civic engagement. That's been my civic engagement speech since I first registered, is that especially at the national level, the election is rarely about who's in the executive office. It's about the judiciary. Because presidents come and go, judges serve for life.
Oh, yes, Michelle, go ahead. You ain't got to type it, honey. This conversation, just say what you say. Say it with your chest.
I'm just like absorbing so much right now, and I'm honestly mind blown. I'm learning so much. What you said about how we're not organizing like that anymore. I'm like, we need to. I want to, like, I need to commit myself to this because I'm just I don't know. This is all so crazy. I like honestly never put that much thought into everything that you just talked about right now. And I'm just mind blown. I have no words really right now.
You know, the same way that we're having like that we have COVID pods to protect ourselves against this disease. We need to have organizing pods that we roll with to protect ourselves against that disease out there that's coming against us politically and societally. And so that kind of helps us take action.
Yeah.
You don't feel so overwhelmed. Like this was basically the pod of women that came together on behalf of Camille. And then we saw it multiply and multiply and multiply. And then the math of a movement took effect. And that's a principle that we probably need to carry on outside of this. So Michelle, your passion and your energy and your ideas, there's probably another 4 or 5 people that you roll with.
Yep.
That's your political pod.
Yeah.
So that when we've got to do this multi-generational organizing thing again, when we call you, then we know that you're representing your pod and they come in.
Yes.
And that's how you begin the wheels of organizing. Tony will tell you that.
Yes. I call it a base. So that's what we call it. And this whole year, all I'm focusing on is building base and capacity. My vision for this year, say it out loud, is to ensure that this city and this county, that the power of it and the governance of it is given back to the hands of the people. Period. And in order to do that, we have to break down the blah, blah, blah. We've got to translate stuff because that's what power does, especially white power, especially power that is rooted in white supremacy from a historical framing. It creates language. It speaks a language that the people can't even grasp or understand. And it makes people feel like they don't even fit or shouldn't belong in a space. But at the end of the day, if all you remember is this, Michelle, every person that sat on that board of supervisors today, their salary is coming from our taxes. I'm the reason why you get your dental work. I'm missing a tooth and I got to go and pay in order to get some dental work done. But your teeth aren't broken because I'm paying for you to get that done. I pay for your children. Hey, Tom, I'm for real. This is where I have to hang out in this space when you tell me and the folks that I rock with to be quiet when we come into your office space. No, your salary is coming from my salary. I voted for you and paid for you to sit in that seat. And the fact that you don't want to hear my mouth, there's a problem with that, because in all actuality, as someone with a managerial experience, you work for me. So I dropped my email in the chat, and I dropped my link to schedule meetings. For anyone that wants to schedule a one-to-one with me, that these are the things that we are working on. It's all about formation, meaning it's all about getting information in order to get in formation. It's about building an army. It's about us understanding the game. No, look, I'm looking for Olivia Post in Stockton and in the San Joaquin County. For real, right? I'm looking for gladiators this year. That's what I'm looking for, because we've got to make some changes. These people can't keep telling us, how things run. We're the ones that are suffering while y'all, what? You telling us that we need to wait for you to build houses while you in yours and they sleeping in tents? I'm sorry, that don't work. Oh, we need to hire more. Can I say this last thing? Yes, he did say, well, since we need to make sure that everybody is what is it, equal pay for equal work, and all of that. He was saying that well, it's important then that we also apply this practice to the sheriffs, because they're in a hiring crisis too, and they are struggling to recruit folks, and so we need to. Yes, he did.
And there's my exit line. Okay.
I'll leave it there. So love y'all. It's been real. Great conversation. Let's chat some more. Yeah. Oh, Board of Supervisors, please tap into that. I'll put it in the chat. Listen in. All right. Peace.
Thank you.
Reach out.